Hi, everybody. My name is Todd Harrison. I'm the founding partner of CB1 Capital, and I'm very honored today to be moderating this panel with Weldon and Danielle Drummond. A little pretext, a year ago, Weldon and I sat on this stage with Kim Rivers, and we talked about all the things that we wanted to see for the industry. And it seemed like a pipe dream at the time. It really did. We talked about rescheduling, we talked about uplisting, we talked about all the things that could help the industry. And fast forward a year, all of these exchanges that were ignoring our calls are now lobbying for listings for these companies. Medical obviously has been rescheduled a couple of weeks ago. TrueLeave listed last week, and we have an ALJ hearing coming up in a few weeks. The one element of promises made, promises kept that hasn't manifested yet is the prisoners and the people who are still incarcerated for this plant. It's one of the great injustices. It's one of the reasons why I joined Weldon 6 years ago to help him, and one of the reasons why I know Danielle has dedicated her life. So I'm going to turn this conversation over to the stars, which are these two, and we'll start with Weldon. For people know your story, a bit of it, but the work you've done with the White House to get us to this point and what you see going forward with Clemency's would be appreciated. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Todd. There we go. So in 2002, I was arrested for selling $1,000 worth of cannabis. I was actually just building a career in the music industry at the time. And the judge who sentenced me was a very conservative George W. Bush appointee. And he even felt something was wrong with the sentence, sentenced me to prison for 55 years when rapists, murders, and terrorists don't even receive a fraction of that sentence. So my judge did something that rarely judges do. I don't think any judge had ever done. He actually spoke out against the sentence. He called it cruel, unjust, and irrational, but noted that his hands were tied by federal mandatory minimums. And so what he did was unique. He actually walked away from a lifetime appointment to the federal bench to advocate for my release. Other people joined his chorus. I got a lot of conservative support because of my judge, which is how I ended up working with the Trump administration and receiving a full pardon. Right before Trump left office in 2020, he issued me a full pardon and granted clemency to 12 of our clients who were serving life in prison for cannabis. And so now when Trump was reelected, he appointed my good friend Alice Johnson to be the pardon czar. She is now the head of Clemency in the White House, and she herself had served, she had a life sentence for a low-level drug offense. So we're excited. There's a lot of things on the horizon coming after the midterms. We think we're going to see a lot of change, especially around cannabis.
Thank you. Thank you, Weldon. And Danielle, you're focusing your life on solving these injustices with CoLab. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing with Ascend and your program there, please?
Absolutely. So the work that I do at Ascend Wellness, and the reason why I do this work is because of stories like Weldon's. Unfortunately, Weldon is one of many of these stories, and the CoLab, Ascend, has remained committed to really being at the forefront of social equity in this industry. And what that looks like is really putting authentic relationships, authentic opportunities, and really utilizing our resources and our capital to the benefit of the entire ecosystem, particularly those who have been impacted by the war on drugs. So it's been an amazing ride working at Ascend. I've been there for the last 4 years. It has not only remained a commitment, but something that they've doubled down in as the years have continued. And so it's just been an amazing pleasure to do this work. We do restorative justice work similar to what Weldon's doing here around expungements. We also do economic empowerment with mentorship program. We have partners who we work with to really mentor and provide education and capital to social equity licensees. And we also have an opportunity to do partnerships with them, which I know we'll talk a little bit later on about.
Yep. Thank you. And we're going to get into some of those numbers because I know a lot of people look at some of these MSOs and some of these operators and think that their social and criminal justice efforts are lip service, but there's real numbers being created here and real change being made. Weldon, I know that you have, and you spoke on your relationship with Alice Johnson and the work that she's doing there. Can you expand a little bit on what you foresee potentially in terms of criminal justice reform? For those who don't know, Weldon was instrumental in helping to pass the First Step Act during President Trump's first term, and paradoxically, the most progressive criminal justice reform that this country has seen in many years, and since, right? So contrary to, I think, a lot of the optics, we have a president right now who has demonstrated in the past a commitment to criminal justice reform. He's put people in place like Alice who can help this. When do you think, or how do you think this manifests going forward?
So currently, they're working on a massive clemency program, especially in light of rescheduling, to focus on people who are still incarcerated federally for cannabis. The federal system produces the most draconian prison sentences. I have a friend serving 60 years for a cannabis-only offense, and there's no parole in the federal system, there's no expungement. The only way to get your life back is through presidential clemency. And so right now, the White House is reaching out to colleges and getting law students to come help Alice comb through thousands of clemency petitions, because I'm told that they're looking to do over 10,000 clemencies before President Trump leaves office.
I agree with you. Danielle, we touched on this earlier, talking about sort of the skepticism surrounding big cannabis and social justice efforts. Can you talk a little bit more about, the why, the how, and the what that you're manifesting?
Absolutely. And I think you're right. There is some skepticism, right? When you hear folks doing social justice or social equity work, it's like, what does that exactly mean? What does that look like? And so when we look at the work that we've done over the last 4 years, some of the fruits of that have been that we've been able to donate almost $1 million, $960,000 to grassroots organizations, small businesses, small organizations who are already working at the forefront of keeping our communities healthy and safe. It also looks like we have been able to serve over 4,000 people across all of the different states that Ascend is in regarding expungements and free legal services, as well as community services as well. It looks like we are able to partner right now in New Jersey with social equity licensees because of the legislation that's been passed. And I think that's key, really looking at policy and making sure that it is shaping the opportunities and not hamstringing the opportunities for social equity licensees to be in relationship with MSOs. And I think what you find is once we build authentic relationship, once you start to get to know people, we don't just cut a check. We go to all of the events, we're volunteering. When you're in it with people and they can see that you're truly committed, it really makes all the difference.
Yeah, and we were talking backstage about, there's a lot of people sitting around the table waiting for cannabis reform, and they all have a legitimate case to be made. But there's strength in numbers, and what's been clear over the last 10 years that I've been doing this, and the last 5 years in particular, is that there's strength in numbers, and we have to work together if we're going to see anything get done. That was a big reason why Weldon and I started the Mission Green Alliance 5 years ago, to try to get all the operators around the common denominator of criminal justice reform, because I think we can all agree that criminal justice reform is necessary, and if you study the history of this country, completely unnecessary to begin with. But that's a different conversation. Weldon, you've put so much work into getting us to this point. And I know that this isn't a destination, right, in your eyes, and I think in a lot of our eyes, a lot more work needs to be done. But realistically, as we look at Schedule 3 as a stepping stone towards, I think, descheduling and expunging and clemencies and all of the solving the injustices of this, what I would say is a stain on the moral fabric of America, this war on drugs. How would you like to see this manifest going forward? Sorry about that. How would you like to see this manifest going forward, understanding that incrementalism is really the only thing that has worked so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I used to be the descheduler only person, but I learned how DC works and how politics works. Everything's incremental. The First Step Act was, the First Step Act. We're working on the Second Step Act. And so I'd really like to see Congress step up and pass some legislation that includes expunging records, letting people out of prison, because it's about to be Schedule 3, and you're going to still have people in prison many of whom are just running a medical dispensary in California, still serving decades in prison. And so Congress needs to step up. I think that's the next step.
And you think that's likely possible, given Schedule 3, that changes the climate on the Hill?
So I heard from a number of Republicans and White House officials that once cannabis is no longer in Schedule 3, that they'd be more open to legislation like States Act and whatnot. So getting cannabis out of Schedule 1 is the most first important step.
Yes, and for those who aren't aware, I'm sure most of you are, medical has already been rescheduled, and the adult use ALJ hearing is scheduled for, I think, June 29th, and will be completed 2 weeks thereafter. So hopefully, right around the 250th anniversary of this great nation, we'll have adult use rescheduled as well. There's going to be some lawsuits, I'm sure, but we'll see how that plays out. But some things to be excited about. As we bring this in for a landing, before I say congratulations to the New York Knicks for being the world champions of 2026. For those of you who know, it's been a long time. I'm going to turn this over for final words for anything that you would like to say. It doesn't have to be Nick related. It could be anything that you would like to leave this audience with before we close the panel.
So I would just say that I am excited about the future of cannabis and the opportunity to continue to collaborate and work together. Our program at Ascend is called the CoLab because we recognize the importance of collaboration and partnership. And so I'm excited to see what the future brings as we look to rescheduling and as we look to other partnerships.
You think the Ascend program is something that could be replicated or expanded upon? You found that to be very successful, yes?
Absolutely. It can definitely be expanded upon. And the tenets of social equity, there are tenets that we can follow, right? Freedom and access, and we can look at those things and include them in any one of our programs or any one of our companies. So it is not hard to do equity. It's just a matter of understanding to get the right folks in the room to make sure that you're doing it well.
Yeah. And I think one of those folks is right there, Sam Brill, who's made this all happen for CoLab. So thank you, Sam.
And actually, can I just, before we end, I really do want to give a moment to shout out our leadership at Ascend. Sam Brill, our CEO, Frank Perullo, our president, David Gakem, our chief commercial officer, our team back there, the strategy team, Luke, Monty, Brandon Bieber from Wholesale. I really wanted to take that second to shout you all out because this work does not happen without the commitment and the capacity and the resources that Ascend has given me. And to be one of the few full programs that are really left in this industry, I think it says a lot about the people that I work for and the people who make sure that this work gets done every day, including our strategy team. So I just wanted to thank you all and shout you out. Raise your hands. I want people to know who you are.
And I'll say is, as a consumer, the cannabis at Ascend is another level. And I know that we have a partnership at River North. We're going to activate the Roundup program at 1 o'clock if anybody would like to join us there and meet Weldon. But also, if you enjoyed cannabis, this is probably where you want to get your cannabis, and there's discounts for showing your badge there at River North all week. Weldon, the last word is obviously yours. Take us home.
Yeah, first I just want to say thank you to the MariMed team for presenting me with this award. It's not too often, we get recognized for the work we do. A lot of it happens behind the scenes, so thank you to the MariMed team, but also thank Ascend and Sam and you guys for supporting us. We couldn't do the work without your support. Also shout out to Verano, True Leaf, PharmaCann, Cresco, who's been supporting us for the last 5 years, allowing us to do this important work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.